Right above the user prefs is a message that says the tag manager needs to include the following tags: player, enemy, and friendly. You can view your tag manager list by clicking on the tag drop-down box at the top of the inspector. You need to make sure it includes one for player, one for enemy, and one for friendly. If you need to add them, just click the Add Tag option at the bottom of the list. Let's go over the user prefs. On at startup makes the laser visible at the start of the game. If unchecked, there will be no laser visible. Lethal makes it so that it kills anyone it detects. If you want to use the laser as a tripwire or some kind of sensor, then you'd want to uncheck this option. You'll probably want to uncheck the next option as well. The next option is zap effect, and it determines whether or not you hear a zapping sound and see sparks when the laser is crossed. The next three options determine who the laser can detect. Detect player determines if the laser will detect the player. Detect friendlies determines if the laser can detect friendly NPCs. Detect enemies determines if the laser can detect enemies. Now, in order for it to detect players, friendlies, and enemies, they have to be tagged appropriately. Laser effects are optional. You can even use your own effects if you want. The object that is in this field will be instantiated at the point where the laser is crossed. Ideally, you need an object that plays the effects automatically when instantiated and then destroys itself after an appropriate amount of time. The laser effects prefab that I'm using will automatically play a zapping sound when it's instantiated and create a particle burst effect that looks like sparks. Then after a very brief moment, it will destroy itself. Let's go over the events. There are 3 events. Laser turned on happens anytime the laser is turned on. Laser turned off happens anytime the laser is turned off. Laser crossed happens anytime a player, enemy, or friendly crosses the laser, assuming they have the appropriate tags. If they are not tagged as player, enemy, or friendly, the laser won't be able to detect them. How about a demonstration? I'll create some rotating lasers. First, I'll create a 3D cylinder and resize it so that I can use it as the object that holds the laser. I'll reset its position to make sure it's at world center. That will make it easier to position all the parts of our rotating lasers. Just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to drop a material on my cylinder. I'll use a dark material to make the laser stand out a little bit more. Next, I'll drop a laser beam into my scene and make sure it's positioned at the world center as well. Now, I just need to raise the laser up to where I want it. I'll also scale it to make it longer and thicker. Now, we need something to make our laser rotate. For that, I'll use a spinner mod, which can be found in the container mods folder. I'll drop one into my scene and again make sure it's positioned at world center. Since the spinner mod is a container mod, it has a container nested inside of it. We need to make sure that we put our laser and cylinder into this container in order for them to spin. I'm going to move the spinner mod away from my player so that it doesn't kill me at the start of the game. Now that I have everything positioned where I want them, let's go ahead and press play and see if everything works right. It all looks good, but I think I can make it a little more interesting. Let's speed up the rotation. I'll do that by selecting the spinner mod and setting the RPMs to 20. Now let's duplicate the spinner mod and raise it up so that we have 2 levels of lasers. For our second spinner mod, I'm going to slow down the speed to 5 RPMs and uncheck spin clockwise. If everything works properly, the bottom laser should spin fairly fast clockwise, and the top laser should spin slowly counterclockwise. Let's click play and see. Alright, how about one more quick demonstration? Let's drop another laser beam into the scene and move it in front of our player. Nothing fancy, but let's make it non-lethal and turn off the zap effect. Let's have this layer turn on our rotating lasers. So with this laser beam selected, let's drag both spinner mods to the laser crossed event and tell them to spin continuously. So I'll do one of the spinner mods and then I'll drag the other spinner mod and set both of them to spin continuously. So whenever this laser is crossed by our player, it should cause both of our spinner mods to start spinning. Now let's make sure our spinner mods are not spinning when the game starts. We can do that by selecting each one and unchecking the spin on startup option. The only thing left to do now is test it all out.